Welcome to Mid-Century Modernism with Monique, your go-to podcast for all things architecture, design, and innovation within mid-century modernism. Join me on a journey through the golden age of design, where every episode brings you fresh inspiration for modern living and unlocks the secrets of this iconic and timeless style. What are we waiting for? Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mid-Century Modernism with Monique. I'm Monique Anton, your host, and I am so excited to have Heather David on the show today. Hello, Heather.
Hey, Monique.
Heather is a historian and the author of the books Motel California and Mid-Century by the Bay, and numerous articles of American pop culture and historic preservation. I have always been so inspired by your talks and your books. And I wanted to start by asking you, why do you love modernism so much? And how did this start for you?
So I get asked this question a lot. And I think that my response is that I was obsessed with mid-century modern architecture at a very young age. And I've had to think about that, why. I grew up in a cottage bungalow that was built in 1922. And how come I'm so interested in mid-century modern? And I talk about my first mid-century modern building crush. It's kind of funny because I had a crush on a building probably when I was about 7 years old. And it's a mid-century modern bank building on 4th Street in San Rafael. And it is a box enveloped by a screen, and behind the screen is a moat of water. So as a child, I remember just peeking behind the screen and seeing the water feature behind the building. And if you remove the screen, then it's just a big glass box. But the screen is actually to block the light, so that people can work in this glass box. But I also was obsessed with the water feature. So I think about my first building crush. I think about the school that I went to, which was built in the 50s and was very modern in design, floor-to-ceiling glass, mid-century modern concrete screen block. I just think it was all around me, and I was naturally attracted to it. I think this architecture was designed to be attractive. I think that's why I'm attracted to it. I don't think it's an accident. The amount of creativity and passion and optimism that went into these buildings, you can feel it if you're receptive to it.
Yes.
You can see it if your eyes are open.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of your Facebook and Instagram page, Mid-Century by the Bay. And I urge all of you that are listening to check out this imagery and check out the book Motel California, which I got on Amazon and I got at your Resort-O-Rama event, by the way, which was amazing. When I look at your book, I go there looking for inspiration and to feel this happy world of that time and to feel that nostalgia and to also get design ideas. And I want to know, after all these years of collecting this information, and thank God you did, because if you hadn't documented all of these things, a lot of them would be lost in time. I learned that about 95% of these buildings that are in your book have been torn down.
I think that 95% of the buildings, I wouldn't say they've been demolished. I think they've been either remodeled, remodeled, or modified beyond recognition. So most of the motels that were built in the post-war years were individually owned mom and pop enterprises. Again, you see the creativity, the differentiation in terms of theming and mind-blowing signage and amenities. But I think that what happened over time is the demand started to go away. And there was market oversaturation in the mid-'60s. And so a lot of these small businesses were pushed out of business. And over time, these buildings were utilized in other ways. So today, some of these old motels and motor courts still exist, but they function as low-income housing, transitional housing, short-term housing. It's kind of exciting to see some of these old motels being used. They're still very useful for low-income housing, and especially in California, where we're dealing with a situation where there's seems to be a housing crisis. Sometimes I question if it's really a housing crisis or if it's an affordable housing crisis, but we definitely have a housing crisis, and we're seeing a lot of old motels being used for housing.
Right. You've done a lot of work to preserve these properties and signage, and I have just been blown away by how many hours you've put into doing that. Can you give us just a rundown of your work? You were involved with, it was different signage and a donation that you had for the San Jose property as well.
Sure, I can give you an overview of my work in preservation. So my focus is really the San Francisco Bay Area. I was born in San Francisco and raised in the North Bay, and then I moved to the South Bay. Well, I lived on the peninsula for a while too, and then moved to the South Bay in my teen years. So I've been in the San Francisco Bay Area my entire life, and I've had the advantage of experiencing a lot of the unique architecture and signage and art. And there was a lot of development in the Bay Area post-World War II, so there's a lot of great architecture to experience. But I started out by just documenting buildings and signs and public art because I couldn't find anything online. And I think if you care about something, you just are naturally inquisitive and you want to know the story. You want to know the story behind, all right, who designed this? Who built this? And if you can track them down and interview them, even better. But I just wanted to document the stories behind these things that mattered so much to me, to make them more human. To give these buildings and signs, to give them a face, so that maybe people could be more receptive or understand why these places matter so much. So I started out, I want to say in 2007, really aggressively documenting. And then over time, I decided, with my husband's encouragement, to do a book. And I did my first book, Mid-Century by the Bay, about the Bay Area in the 50s and 60s. And I could not find a publisher. So I cashed out half my life savings, and I did it anyway.
Yes.
I took a huge leap of faith and took time off work, and I put out the book, and it's out of print. I sold out. So I got my money back. When people ask me about self-publishing, it's not a big money maker. You do it because you have something to say and you want to share something with the world, and it's just an avenue, a vehicle for sharing that. So I did my first book in 2010, Mid-Century by the Bay. It was a life-changing experience. In fact, Monique, I remember bringing you a copy at a party that you had, and that's how I first met you. This is feels like it was decades ago.
Yeah, it does.
And then I decided that one book wasn't enough. So I went down the rabbit hole and decided I was going to do another. And that's when I did Motel California.
Yes. And through this book, I've learned a lot about different architects and how these buildings and signs became a part of the people. They became a part of the community. They became that staple that said, here we are, this is our, documenting our lifetime, and really made so many people so happy and connected to where they lived. You talked about Mario Chiampi and how he designed these homes for better living, for better education, for a better environment, a workplace environment, and a place for students to learn. How do you feel that his work and these designs influence people when they're in them?
I think that when you look at mid-century modern architecture, whether it be for residential or commercial, I think, first of all, the idea was to bring the concepts and principles of great design to everyday people. That really resonates with me. Why does great design just have to be for rich people?
Right.
Great design is great design. Great design should be for everybody to enjoy. And great design actually is timeless. So if you look at some mid-century modern design, and this can extend to fashion and music as well. I mean, there was such a creative output during the 50s and 60s. It was almost unmatched. But I feel like furniture from that period, it's timeless. It's still as beautiful as it was then.
Yes.
The homes are just timeless. Yes. And when I look at some of the homes being built today or some of the buildings being constructed today, they're really forgettable. I don't feel anything. It just feels like blah. And buildings and signs from the post-war period, they feel optimistic to me. They were built and constructed during a time of great optimism, and they were built to be noticed. So it's no big surprise that people would notice them. They were built to be noticed.
Right. I feel like when I even drive up to a mid-century modern home or a good design, let's say new construction that's done well, I have to stop for a minute, and something immediately grounds me. It makes me feel really at ease, and it makes me feel that warmth of design. I don't feel that with other types of architecture. So I think there is this, dare I say, spirit around it.
Well, I think that's the optimism speaking, right? You know, when you, I've spoken with friends of mine who are photographers, and I do a lot of my own photography in the things that I do. I'm not a great photographer. I get by. I would never say that I am like a professional photographer, but sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. There's something about encountering something for the first time, and it's this magic and excitement, chills, that you're just like, wow, that's so incredible. And you take a picture, and you can see it in the photography. Mm-hmm. And I've gone back to take pictures of things in better lighting, like, oh, we need higher resolution for this, or we need better lighting for this. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go back and reshoot this. The magic is lost. And that's just something I can't explain. It's this idea of just this excitement that you experience and capturing it. And just for an architect who's excited about creating something, you can feel the excitement in their end creation.
Yes. You and I are huge vintage fashion fanatics. We share this love of, you know, finding these pieces and the hunt for this design because you cannot find it anywhere else. I think that today fashion designers have, you know, mimicked these designs, and now you see them, you know, Dior will feature something that's $8,000 when I can go to a vintage shop and get an amazing dress for, let's say, $50. So I feel that this world that we surround ourselves with is just the best design that you cannot create, that we have to find. And I wish that our voice was bigger and louder so that we could find other people who are doing the same things. But I love how you have connected a lot of these places and people. And for those of you listening that do have access to these things, please share them. Please start documenting. Please contact someone who can help you publish your book or, you know, get your film done or whatever the work is you're doing. Please make it louder. Do you think that things like this are being revisited and design is now, you mentioned things are coming back because there's a popularity with it now?
I think in modern society, anything goes. You know, there's an opportunity for people to have their own unique vision and their own unique taste. But I mean, this speaks to me, and I think it speaks to a lot of people. If you look at mid-century modern, all you have to do is look at like residential. You look at Atomic Ranch and Dwell magazine, and everybody seems to be getting on the bandwagon. Even Sunset magazine seems to be like getting on the mid-century modern bandwagon. I think that we need to speak up about historic resources, because if we don't, and we don't work to preserve them, especially land values in California, there's a good chance they're going to be gone tomorrow. And once they're gone, they're gone.
Yes.
They're just you just can't rebuild and bring back that same spirit. So yeah, I like older things. I think there's a story behind these older things. That could be the designer, that could be the architect, that could be the original builder. If you look at Eichler, for example, I mean, he had a very strong vision, and he wanted to bring great design to the masses.
Yes.
His houses were not built for rich people.
Right.
Although now, you kind of have to be rich, but that's the irony of it all. But I mean, I think that so many of these builders in the post-war years, it was building the American dream and giving people these amenities that they could have only dreamed of maybe decades before.
Yes. You and I have a history of, I think this was, 7 years ago, we saved an Eichler together. You had a friend who was going to paint the entire interior of an all-original Eichler, and I think they were worried about someone tearing it down. And I remember you called me, and what was the timing on it, I think, for you was really urgent.
Oh, it was really urgent. So this is a good story because I thought, well, I was helping a friend of mine who was, it was an estate sale. So I'm involved in a lot of historic preservation initiatives. And one of the ways, for example, the San Jose Preservation Action Council raises money is through yard sales, multi-block yard sales, which are so much fun. But it's a significant fundraising avenue for them. And we were working on an estate sale, and it happened to be an Eichler in Palo Alto, and the person was clearing out the remaining items, and the San Jose Preservation Action Council came to get the remaining items that didn't sell as a donation. And I walked in, and I lost it because this house looked like a time capsule, and the original wood walls were there, the original globe lights. I mean, it looked great. And the real estate agent at the time is like, well, I said, you're so lucky you have this Eichler. I mean, you're going to get top dollar for this. Oh, no, we're fixing this up. We're fixing this up. I'm like, what do you need to fix? This looks great. We're going to paint all the walls. I said, what?
No.
I said, no. You'll get top dollar for original as it can be. You do not want to paint the walls white. Please do not paint the walls white. And he said, well, I've got the painters coming in 2 days. And I said, no. I said, let me reach out to my friend Monique. We will get you a buyer. You'll get a buyer, and you will get more money if you leave it original. You may not have as much interest, but you'll get premium if you leave it original, because once you paint those wood paneled walls, no amount of stripping is going to bring them back to original. And these walls were just gorge. So it all worked out. But I mean, the real estate agent didn't believe me. He's
2 days.
Like, yeah, we saved an Eichler from a really bad paint job.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that there is a huge market, especially here in the Bay Area, for really good design. And the buyers are so educated on this design, and they know what they want. So having an original Eichler, because that's so rare, it's considered a prize. So
having an original anything is considered a prize, right?
True.
Regardless of the builder or the architects. Some of my friends have these amazing designed homes, and they're largely original. And I love the original features, like intercoms and the original light fixtures. And I love I have aluminum windows on my house, and I kind of like, I haven't been able to find a replacement I like better than the aluminum windows.
I love how you said that you would rather have an old original piece and would pay a premium over something that's new and redesigned that way or imitated. How would you explain that to people, that feeling, or that, because some people think that you and I are absolutely nuts wanting something older rather than something new and a replica.
Well, I think, I like to leave space for people to have their own way and their own values. But for me, I think objects have a story to tell and they have a history. And I love old things. I have a lot of design pieces and, decorative pieces in my house that are old. And I wonder to myself, who had this before me? And maybe they cherished it. And where did they get it? And it's not the same as getting a reproduction, cheap reproduction from, no offense to Crate and Barrel, but, I'd rather have like the original, right? Even if it's scuffed up a little bit. And it's also better for the environment. If you're an
Yes.
environmentalist or you care about the environment, we got to get away from disposable everything.
Absolutely.
So I'm all about reuse, but there's also some sort of spirit that's in the object, whether it be an old dress,
Yes.
or whether it be an ashtray that just pops on your table, or an old building. An old building can speak to you.
Yes. I think we do know through our network, we have a lot of people that are ashtray collectors.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
there are many people who collect these amazing pieces and restore them. I wanted to talk about when you mentioned, so in your book, Motel California, there are so many places that are so just untouched and inspiring. You talked about a bank. There was a bank that in your amazing presentation that you gave at Resortorama, you talked about being in that space and really experiencing that. Not many of us can go somewhere and experience mid-century modernism. Can you share with us a little bit about that bank and your experience there?
Sure. So I'm really interested in commercial architecture. I love residential architecture. I really do. I love homes. But what interests me most about commercial architecture is that I feel very accessible. So let's say you don't have access to a home for whatever reason, like a high-end home or an architect designed home. The only way you're going to get in is if you happen to know the owner, or there's an open house, or maybe it's an
Home
Airbnb
tour, yeah.
or a home tour. But if you want to experience modern architecture, it can be as simple as just walking into a bank that was designed and built in the 1960s. So when I was in high school, I had another building crush. I had a building crush when I was a kid, when I was about 7. And then I had a building crush in high school, and it was this bank building, and it still is there. It's the Bank of the West on Matilda Avenue in Sunnyvale. And this bank looks like a spaceship has landed. It's a circular building with floor-to-ceiling glass and a spiral staircase on the inside. And it was built in the early 1960s by Bank Building and Equipment Corporation, and the designer was Wency Sarmiento. And when you go in, you feel something. And I'm so grateful that the property owners have not sold, because you could easily build, a multi-level, high-density block on that space, but they leave it. And around the perimeter of this circular bank were drive-in windows, where almost like a drive-in restaurant. You did drive-in banking, and that was really innovative and novel at the time. But I was just fascinated with that bank, and I'm so grateful that it's still there. Years later, I was able to meet the designer, Wency Sarmiento, and he asked me, he goes, well, why do you want to meet me? What do you want to talk about? I said, I want to talk about your designs for these banks. And he said, well, why? And I said, because when I go in these banks, I get chills, Why did you do that spiral staircase in the middle of the circular building that leads down to the break room? And why did you choose to do this or do that? Or why did you do floor-to-ceiling glass when you can see the bank vault right there? Why did you choose this? And he started to tear up because I realized that he did design these buildings so that people would feel something. But maybe a lot of people don't feel anymore, and they need to be reminded how to feel.
I have to stop and pause and just take that in. That's absolutely, Heather, I completely agree with you. I think for those of us who care about this architecture, it's a way of life. It's become such a joy. And I am so thankful that you documented this, because if not you, no one would have gone to all this work and trouble to do this. So it's really a huge effort that you've done. And
well, you talk about what you feel when you see a building that inspires you. It's similar to like stopping to smell the roses, like seeing a beautiful flower and taking a picture of the flower on your phone, or let's say you see something that inspires you and you stop to try and capture it and experience it. I think that for a lot of people that are interested in mid-century modern architecture, the joke is pull over. And it's my husband that's usually the person that has to pull over, but he gets it. And a big step in our marriage was when he yelled out to me, look at that, we need to pull over. And I didn't even notice it. So I've got him trained. He knows when to pull over, and he's now a spotter for me. He not only pulls over the car when I ask him to, but he's actually looking.
yes.
So sometimes people need to see what you see in order to appreciate it.
That's right. Beautiful. We are being serenaded by my little dog Walter snoring, and we have someone doing the hedge clippers outside.
But the show must go on.
The show must go on. Exactly. And
this is important stuff.
I know, and we love this so much. So I'm so thankful to be bonded with like-minded people. And we have a friend, Rob Keel, who is also a modernist. And he said, too, that the design of these buildings, the older, the better, the more original, the better. How can people work to preserve these buildings? That's what we're trying to get to the heart of that. And there are so many people that we can put you in touch with that care about design, that restore design, that can look at original plans and bring back original materials. So please contact us and get in touch, and we will give you those resources. I may just have them on the show as well to talk about that work and how to restore them. But you, in all of your preservation efforts, you have been to a lot of talks and a lot of meetings with people from the town that were trying to save signs, that were trying to save their buildings. What have you seen that these people come together and share? They have this love for this building, right? What have you experienced with that?
I think that what inspires me is, it's one thing to have passion. It's one thing to enjoy something. I think it's another thing to get involved. If you see that a building or a sign or even a piece of public art is at risk, don't just put that in your back pocket and move on with your life. Do something to preserve it. Chances are there are other people that also love it. And you could, with the power of social media these days, you could find like-minded people and work to preserve some of it. You can't save everything, but at least, put your energy somewhere positive and try to do something positive. A lot of times, I work on campaigns and people just offer all kinds of complaints. Or you saved this, but you didn't save that. I'm like, well, what did you do? You do anything? Do you have anything, other than your opinion to offer? And talk is cheap. It's easy. Open up your mouth. It's hard. It's hard to spend 4 or 5 years on an advocacy campaign where nobody gives a shit to begin with.
Yes.
And then finally it's on the front cover of the Mercury News.
I love that. You and I have spent so many thousands of dollars and so many hours working to preserve properties. You're right about that. I think for those of you listening, it's about doing something. It's about getting involved, just as Heather said, or contacting people to help. So I want to bring things back around to Tiki Bob.
Oh, Tiki Bob.
I love Tiki Bob. I know you love Tiki Bob.
Everybody should love Tiki Bob.
Well, I want everyone to know what Tiki Bob is.
Well, Tiki Bob is on the corner of, is it Post and Taylor? I'm getting all excited here. I can't even remember the cross streets. Tiki Bob was probably the very first character to be put on a tiki mug.
Yes.
Tiki Bob dates to 1955, and for years, Tiki Bob was disrespected. Mm-hmm. He was painted a variety of colors, none of which were original, and he actually functions as a support beam for the front of a restaurant that used to be Tiki Bob's, but is now home to Honey Honey Cafe. Mm-hmm. And for many, many decades, people were really upset that Tiki Bob was not respected. Yet people are selling Tiki Bob t-shirts, Tiki Bob keychains, Tiki Bob socks, Tiki Bob Christmas ornaments. And I'm like, people are selling all this stuff on Tiki Bob, but the original Tiki Bob was painted cream when I first took a picture. And then he was painted green. And so I said, well, let's reach out to the owners and let them know they have a treasure on their hands.
Yes. And
what would it hurt? What would it hurt? I'm like, do you know what you have? We're talking thousands of people all over the world love Tiki Bob, and yet you've got him.
Right.
So
time to respect him.
Yeah. So a couple of friends of mine and I, Martin Kate, owner of Smuggler's Cove, and a variety of other bars and enterprises, and then also Donald Harvey, who's an incredible artist in San Francisco. He says, hey, if they'll give us permission, I will paint him back to his original colors.
Yes.
So I reached out to the owners and I said, this means so much to people. Will you allow us to take him back to his original color scheme? Mm. And if you don't like it, we'll paint him back green.
For free.
There's no, you don't lose anything. Let's say, positive, on the positive side, you become local heroes. On the negative side, nothing. What do you have to lose? We'll paint him back the horrible color that he is right now. And so it was just so amazing. It took a little while for them to understand really why we were so crazy about Tiki Bob, but they agreed.
Did they think they thought you were crazy, right?
No, I don't know if they thought I was, but they didn't get it, right? They didn't get the whole tiki fascination, this fascination with Polynesian pop, and this resurgence of tiki culture. And they didn't really initially get it, but they were open to hearing why it matters. So much of it is, are people open to having discussion? And so they were open, and once they got it, they saw these old pictures of what the front of the restaurant used to look like, and they realized how popular this character was as an advertising character. They're like, sure. And so on one weekend in 2019, Donald Harvey and got out there with his friend and trusted colleague Rob, and they repainted Tiki Bob to his original colors. And now it's a destination for people. They go there and they take a picture next to Tiki Bob. But it was a phone call. I mean, literally, it was like, okay, well, we all agreed something should be done, and we got together and we acted upon it.
I love
You
it.
don't always win, but at least try.
At least try.
If people oftentimes tell me, like, with motels, so many of their amazing signs are gone, but many of the signs still exist. And these owners don't have a lot of money. I mean, it's not a huge money-making business to have a small motel. If you're so worried about the sign, stop complaining. Go and talk to the owner and say, we really love your sign. If we crowdfunded $10,000 and we found somebody to fix your sign, would you be okay with that?
Yes.
And I'll tell you, 99% of the time, they'll say, heck yeah.
Right.
Who wants a sign that's falling apart? Nobody wants a sign that's falling apart. It's an advertising piece.
Right.
But sometimes they just need a little help.
Right. And there's power in numbers.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, on the subject of signage, and a sign that meant a lot to people. Stevens Meat Products sign in San Jose. So I'm part of this organization called the San Jose Signs Project. I'm one of the co-founders. We decided that we were going to advocate for commercial signage in San Jose. And we were going to tell the story of these signs, what these signs meant, and what they continue to mean to people. And so we started to document the history of these signs, and we created a bunch of booklets. There's a booklet, a driving tour booklet, which is a lot of fun. You experience the history of San Jose through the signage. And then also we have a downtown walking tour, which is a lot of fun. But anyway, so we had this sign that means so much to people, and it was literally falling apart. And it was designed by the same company that did the Hollywood sign in Southern California. And if you remember the old Coca-Cola sign up in San Francisco that you could see from the East Bay that was taken down, which kills me, but it was same company. Anyway, so we said, well, we've got to fix the sign. And people have been talking about fixing the sign for years. But it's just like, ain't nobody going to write a check. So what we did is we developed a campaign about saving the Stevens Meat Products sign. It was like, save the pig.
Yes.
And we crowdfunded $35,000 to save this sign. And you may say, why? It's just a sign. That sign means something to somebody. That sign means I'm home to people. There's only one of these signs in the entire existence. The entire world. There's only one dancing pig Stevens Meat Products sign. And people happen to care about it. And they cared about it enough to put some money in the till and get it fixed.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, I worked a bunch of fundraising events, and they were exhausting. Being on your feet 12 hours a day, spending your weekend doing that, and talking to people day in and day out, it takes time and it takes passion. But when you see a little kid stop, and with their little dimpled hand and their dollar bill, putting money in the pig-shaped bank to fix the pig sign, it's really moving. People from all different walks of life,
yes,
coming together. And now the pig sign has been restored. It's been moved temporarily to History San Jose, and you can go see it dancing again.
I love that. And I think this is such a gift to people in the community. It's such a way to stake your claim and say, this is something that will be taken care of, and this is a part of our history, so it's living on. It's really important, I think, for the just morale and people in the area to still celebrate it.
Buildings and signs, they give people a sense of place. These are unique experiences that you can have through these cultural and historic artifacts. And for me, the Bay Area is very special because this is where I've lived my entire life. But I don't want to go to Chicago and experience the Bay Area. I want to go to Chicago and experience Chicago.
Yes.
Right? I don't want to go to New York and experience the Bay Area. I'm biased. I love the San Francisco Bay Area. But the reality is, I don't want to go to Palm Springs and experience the Bay Area. I want to go to Palm Springs and experience what's unique about Palm Springs. And so that's where preservation comes into play. These are unique cultural and historic artifacts that give us a sense of place.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's going to be everywhere, USA everywhere.
Right.
You don't want to go to New Orleans and see San Francisco. You go to New Orleans to experience New Orleans.
I have to ask you about these tours. We had talked before with our good friend Rob Keel about having little bus tours of the Westlake homes. I wanted to get an old vintage school bus and slap Modern Homes Realty on the side of it and have Rob give this tour that's already been done.
Please do.
And scheduled and written out. But you also have a tour that you brought up. I think we should do this. How were you going to?
Well, first of all, I think, my friends and I do homegrown tours. We just, when I did the Bay Area Modernism playing cards, the idea was that there were at least 13 sites that you could see in different areas of the Bay Area, and you could build your tour around these sites. But I like people to think that don't wait for somebody else to tell you what you need to see. You know what you're interested in, and the content is available online, so create your own tour. And what I did with, when I was speaking at Resortorama, they actually asked me to contribute to their program for the conference. And so I said, what do you want me to write? They said, well, tell us, about modernism in the Bay Area, why it matters. And, I said, well, I'll do is I will give people a tour that they can take to experience it in real time, viscerally, on the way from San Francisco all the way up to Santa Rosa. So I'm like, okay, well, the first thing you need to do is stop off at the Roundhouse Cafe for coffee. That's Vincent Rainey, architect. It was his first commission, 1930s. It's incredible. It's modern, pre-modern, but lots of elements of modernism in there. It used to be a restaurant. You need to go get your coffee and check it out. Check out the view. Look over at the clock, the old neon clock of the Golden Gate Bridge Toll Plaza, which is one of my favorite neon signs. I would be heartbroken if it was going to go, and it was restored not too long ago. Then you go across the bridge, stop off in Sausalito, and you've got to see this amazing B of A that was restored, and it has a gorgeous nautical mural. And then you stop off in Sausalito for a minute, then you stop off at Marin Joe's, maybe get some lunch.
Yes, I love that place.
Waiters and tuxes and fresh sourdough bread with real butter, salted butter, and maybe, treat yourself and get a martini, but, get yourself Joe's special if it's, brunch, or you get yourself some pasta or, whatever's the special of the day. And always get yourself a Caesar salad. It's really delicious. Then after you go to Marin Joe's, and that building is a time capsule.
Yes.
Both inside and out. Late 1950s. Then you're going to get back on the road with your full belly and keep driving. And you're going to pass San Rafael, where I grew up. And you're going to see the big towering bowling pin of country club lanes. And you're going to see right next to it the Litchfield sign. And Litchfield's used to be a destination for Hollywood celebrities when they would come up and visit in the Bay Area. And the sign is like a spectacular, same sign company as the Hollywood sign in Southern California. And it was marketed as kind of the Bay Area's Las Vegas. Anyway, you pass the Litchfield sign.
My little French bulldog, Walter, just agreed with you and let out a little
I
yelp.
love his commentary. Anyway, so you pass Litchfields and you keep going, and you pass the Marin Civic Center. And there's one tip that I would give people coming to the Bay Area that are fans of modernism. Do a tour of the Marin Civic Center.
Yes.
It is absolutely mind-blowing. It will blow your mind. There's nothing like it, and they give tours. Highly recommend it. And I grew up in the shadow of the Marin Civic Center when I grew up in Marin, so I was lucky to experience that as a child. Past the Marin Civic Center, you're going to keep going. And then I just kept going on about all these places where you could stop. You could stop you cross Marin Civic Center, you'd go across the street and start looking at the Eichlers of Terra Linda and Lucas Valley.
Yes.
And then you would make your way up to Santa Rosa. So with a little bit of research, I encourage people to experience their built environment. I encourage people to experience the world around them. I mean, if you have the option of experiencing it in a book or experiencing it in person, I'd rather experience it in person if I can.
Right. I love both of your pages, your Facebook page and your Instagram page, Mid-Century by the Bay. All of these images and artifacts and collections, it seems like you've worked for years just to get all of these images. How does that happen?
Well, I want to give credit to Flickr. Now, this is going to date me. It's going to date Rob Keel, too. He moved on from Flickr a long time ago. But Rob Keel, author of Little Boxes, and I started to put everything on Flickr. Flickr is dated. I mean, I know it dates me. It is dated. It's a place where you can put photos, scans, etc. And it's static information. You tag everything. So I continue to use Flickr, but now I have to do Flickr and Instagram and Facebook.
Yes.
The thing about Flickr that's so amazing is that you put something up on Flickr and you tag it. People come to you. They find you. And they may find you years later, and they give you additional information. Things like a sign designer that I was documenting and celebrating, his daughter reached out to me and said, I'm so grateful for you documenting my father's work. I'm so happy to see that. And then, of course, I have to say, well, tell me more about it. What was it like to be his daughter, and what were his favorite signs? And putting that energy out there and putting that information out there just gives you more back. And it may take time. It may not happen overnight, but it's static. Once you put that stuff up on Flickr, it's there. And the sets can build up over time. They're not limited. I know on Instagram, you can have sets as well, but I started to document a sign company, Electrical Products Corporation. It started with 2 images, and then it's now over 400. So you just keep building. It's almost like an encyclopedia of a subject. So I started with Flickr. I still am on Flickr, but also I moved into Facebook because that's a really good place to attract like-minded people and also to inspire people to action. Right? So like, I need somebody to go check on this building. I hear there's, a wrecking ball coming. Is anybody close to this building? Can you go check it out right away? Social media is fantastic for that. You just push it out to the community and say, oh my gosh, someone tells me the sign is driving off. Go stop it.
I love that.
And for Mid-Century by the Bay on Facebook, I want to say 4,000 followers. I lost track. I didn't even want to have that page or that group, and my friend forced me to have it when I released my first book. But it's been invaluable for letting people to know about home tours, like your upcoming Eichler tour. I'll be promoting that. Yes. Or our friend Rob Keel's books, or if I'm doing some sort of advocacy campaign, I'll leverage that.
Right. And we're going to have the link for your San Jose organization. Are people able to donate there on the website? Absolutely.
So Preservation Action Council funded the books that I've done for signage. The San Jose Preservation Action Council, their URL is www.preservation.org.
Okay. That's great.
And these preservation organizations are on the front lines. These are not people that have paid positions. These are people that volunteer their time and, like me, stand for 12 hours a day trying to get people to donate to preserve something or to sign a petition that something matters. And so, come shop at one of the Preservation Action Council's yard sales. They're a lot of fun. And again, recycling, I think, is good for the environment. But also, the money goes to a good cause.
Yes. Don't tell me where they are, because I will end up buying everything
You need
there.
to come down to San Jose. We're going to have a lot of fun.
I'm such a deal hunter, and you and I share that passion for vintage furniture, vintage clothing. And I would also love to know, everyone listening, please contact me if you have other vendors or people that are selling these things. We need to know. And
we need to support local. We need to buy and shop local if we can.
Yes. And we also need to know where these things are. I need to know where the doorknobs are for my mid-century modern home. I need to know, where the hardware is for kitchens. So we have this wonderful community, and a lot of our materials are either sold out or purchased, so we need new information.
They're hard to come by.
Yes.
But I do think CA Modern Magazine is really a good resource for materials. Mm-hmm. And Adrienne Biondo, she is amazing at sourcing really hard to find things. So she's a good contact to have.
Yes.
But yeah, we all have to stick together.
Yeah, Adrienne, I'm going to reach out to her to be on the show. We've known each other for about 9 years, maybe. How long have you and I known each other? 10 years? This was
a long time.
A long time.
But we still look the same.
we still look the same.
And we
keep on trucking.
Yeah, we keep on trucking.
So thank you all for listening. Please check out Heather's amazing book, Motel California, on Amazon. And we will have the links to her amazing charities. Thank you, Heather, for all you do. And thank you for documenting these things and for bringing people together.
Thank you, Monique. Appreciate it.
We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you had as much fun learning about the world of mid-century modernism as I did. You can also catch the show on my YouTube channel, where we walk through some of the most stylish mid-century modern homes in California. Just search for Mid-Century Modernism with Monique and hit subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave me a comment to let me know what you think. Your feedback helps me make the show even better. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Mid-Century Modernism with Monique.